Hey everybody, welcome back to Three Swords Productions. If you're new to the channel, I'm Steven and this is Nathan, and tonight we have a cool deck, Charlotte LinLin versus Edward Newgate. Now this is post-restriction Newgate, so pretty exciting to see how it's going to stack up against Charlotte LinLin. Now of course, shout out to Worst Generation guys, Garrett was able to pilot his Whitebeard list post-restriction to a 10-0 finish to take down a recent online regional, but is that a case of the best player in the room playing a very good deck, or is it a case of this deck is still so powerful? Well, all that is answered and more in just a moment. You ready to get started?
Let's go.
Let's go. Now, the and more part was a bit of a lie. We are just going to be playing Charlotte LinLin, so... All right, so I'm going to be on the LinLin side. I believe that's Alex piloting Whitebeard. So let's get started here. We've got to get some life out before we can really get grooving. And one Dawn from Charlotte LinLin. So, you know, we have the ability to drop Strucin from my hand. We're going to take it. We're going to start with actually playing Charlotte Pudding. Look at the top 4 cards here. Let's see what we're going to add. Oh, Rush Katakuri is a good option. It's going to be a little tough to get that onto the board with Rush since Newgate is bleeding itself out. And we're going to pick up a really nice looking alt Katakuri. Put that in our hand. That could be good. You know, some of the Katakuri combos that you can do is Edward Newgate's going to take his own life. So you can put a card either top or bottom of the deck, and they might draw it themselves, so you don't even have to deal that damage to them.
Yeah, something like an ace is something really primed to be just put back into life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Ezo come down. Add a Marco to hand. And then Whitebeard Pirates.
Ooh, just staying really Dawn efficient on the second turn here. A lot of times Edward Newgate is passing on that turn, so just, you know, having that Dawn efficiency there is actually really good. And he was able to find blocker Marco too, so, you know, that one of in the deck coming through on turn 2 is going to be really fire. Like, he gets to choose exactly when to put that on the table. And we are seeing a Thatch in hand, so, you know, on Alex's side, that is an immaculate grip.
And it looks like options are being considered from the LinLin side there. 3 Dawn is usually pretty awkward of a turn. You either got Charlotte Puddings or you've got Pero Sparrow, and there's not a whole lot else you want to play in between. You can put something like a Sanji down on the table, but that seems pretty bad in the face of what could possibly be a 5-drop Marco coming down to eat it. So, attack for 8k also makes sense.
This is the big difference between like the early Katakuri turns and early Charlotte LinLin. Katakuri could make this attack for 7 or even 9 if they wanted to, which is a lot more for Newgate to get out of. But here we're just looking to make this attack for 8 and pass, and Newgate's going to cross for 6, and we are going to consider the Shirahoshi here. Draw 3 cards.
Okay, looks like some Thunderbolt action, some good stuff to stack back on a life in a bit. And maybe a 7-drop at the end there. I'm not exactly sure, but
yeah, 7-drop there. So we are looking to, you know, make sure that we're not clouding our hands on all triggers to stack with LinLin. Where, you know, considering how many of these triggers are we actually going to get to play over the course of the game, and so we're going to discard 1 Thunderbolt and 1 Shirahoshi, leaving us with 1 Thunderbolt in hand. We're going to see Edward Newgate play at most of the table and pass the turn again. And they are at 3 life now, so...
Yep. And just like we were saying, these Rush Katakuris do feel a little bit awkward. They're not going to be able to come out with Rush specifically, but they're still good at the table. 4 Dawn 6k is still a reasonable stat line, especially against Newgate. And you get to peek a little bit of life, which is useful.
Yeah, but the Newgate matchup is really where you feel the power loss from the attacking ability of Katakuri, where at this turn, it's a 6k attack. He's just going to need a 1k out. He can do that with Thatch, even. Whereas Katakuri is going to make him pitch 2Ks in order to get out of those attacks. But we do see a 6K attack from LinLin and Edward Newgate just taking it, going down to 2 life here. And up to 7 Dawn, or 6 Dawn, actually.
Yep, 6 Dawn's a good Thatch turn. And if you are worried about 8-drop Katakuri from the opponent in a couple turns, that's maybe not the best play. Instead, you could option to play some like an Ezo in like a 5-drop Marco or something. But obviously still good either way, I think.
I think that's a good call out right now, is that, you know, if you put Thatch on the table with your 6 Dawn here, LinLin is going to 7, so they can't even Katakuri it away, so you will get a full turn with an 8k attacker. And 8k is like quite a lot. I mean, 6k is already demanding 2ks out, but at the point where we're playing, you know, an 8k body on the table, those attacks actually cost, you know, 2 or 3 cards to get out of those attacks. So it's quite a lot, actually. And so we're going to opt to hold 1 Dawn open and play Marco to the table to destroy the Shirahoshi. A bit early there. I think that we probably could have played the Thatch first and Shirahoshi second, since we're going to 7 Dawn there.
Yeah, and noting that the kill on the Shirahoshi is for possible 8-drop Katakuri coming back down and healing that card back. And that's why we didn't take it over something like the Shoup Pudding, which does have more power but less use in life.
Right. It is nice to establish the Marco on this turn, though. But that Dawn didn't get a usage, and I would have liked to see, I think, the Thatch come down last turn, since it is kind of uncontested. Yeah. If you value the Marco destroying Shirahoshi, you could do that on this turn.
That's fair too.
All right, and we're gonna see
8 Dawn. Looks like we got King Do at the front of the hand there. King Do's a pretty good body. Also an Ace. It looks like Ace would be quite good here.
Ace is a power play, especially going to contest this sideways Katakuri here. Being able to kill that with just, I think he can get rid of that with almost Ezo. Yeah,
you have to worry a little bit. You got to figure out whether you want that last Dawn open for one of the guard points in hand, whether you need to keep yourself alive here now that you're at no cards. But that could be a play. If there was nothing else on the board, you could Ace and then equip one with the Ezo, and I think it'd be pretty good.
Right, so we can keep the pressure up this turn, or, we could play the Marco down as well. So I think that might be where Alex is torn between.
Ooh, Thunderbolt, nice.
Thunderbolt I think that's going to guarantee that we want to play, that we're going to want to put the Marco on the table this turn.
Yeah, I think so. I want to make sure we're not dying this turn. Just be safe and responsible.
Safe and making sure that we have enough attackers on the following turn to really pressure our opponent's life. So losing the Atmos, I think you might comfortably play the Ace, but then losing the Atmos means that you don't have quite as many attacks on the following turn. So pretty smart calculation there to put the Marco on the table. This is going to protect you, obviously, from one huge attack, but it's also going to make sure that you have a good attacker on the following turn.
Definitely. And now we're seeing from the LinLin side a little bit of awkwardness when it comes to things like 10-drop. We're playing such a fast game that it's not quite as good as it could be, and B, your opponent's already bled out all of their life, so the whole drain aspect of 10-drop is kind of lost here.
Right, and they have so many cards in hand too, so we could just snap down a big attacker or a big body on the board. But that would be most of the turn just to establish an 8K, and is that what we want to do? I'm not really sure. And we want the option to be able to stack Thunderbolt as well to hit the Marco, so the following turn we can go big. Yeah. But we also have to consider how many cards out of my opponent's hand can we get out this turn, so that the Thunderbolt on the Marco actually does kill him on the following turn.
Yep, and I think the attack for 8K there is good for that. For 8K there.
Yeah, it's going to make him get rid of 2 cards from his hand, and then, of course, our LinLin will also get to turn sideways. Now, if this is a bigger attack, then he guard point above.
Yeah, I was about to say he overcounted, I thought. But.
He did overcounter, yep. So he just block here and pitch, anything that doesn't counter.
Yep, Ace makes sense.
It's like second copy of Ace gone. Now his hand is a bunch of counter power at this point, and 1 Ace.
Yep, and you'll want to save the Jozu to the last possible counter if possible. That could be a good rush attacker on the following turn if you need it. So responsible there.
So now we have a free reign to swing for 8 again if we want it. Again, trying to get multiple cards out of his hand, just to soften him up, because we know we have the Thunderbolt trigger on the following turn. But this is also a play at trying to make him feel like we have enough counter power in our hand to survive the following turn. And just make sure that, cards like Guard Point aren't going to float around for the next turn.
Yeah, it really does feel like your opponent has to kind of go for it here. You've represented a lot of strength in the way you've used your Dawn on that turn by just safely throwing out 6K with the Shoup Pudding there. So I think it's pretty interesting that you can just kind of do that.
Well, if we didn't have if we didn't have Marco on the table, of course, that would have been 6 Dawn floated on the LinLin to really pressure him. But of course, those are the reasons that Marco was restricted down to 1.
Yeah, a bit too good. But this is now getting to be a little bit awkward as the Ace comes down. He could actually reasonably attack your 7-drop, get that off the table, and then you just got the 1 attacker. And the 1 attack is good, but we got Marco on the table still.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's the line that he's opting to do so. And that's really the power of the Thunderbolt up there too. Is he's going to feel pretty safe, but this will ultimately be an attack for 15. Straight to the dome, and will he be able to get out of that? Especially after losing 2 guard points on the last turn. It's all gonna have to come from counter power in hand.
There we go.
No more attacks this turn either.
And he's just opting to let it die, saying, I'm going to need the counter power in my hand. And Izo's going fishing for something a little bit bigger.
We're looking for a 2K here. We want Jozu.
Yeah.
Minimum, we want a 1K, but we're looking for Jozu's.
Added a Kingdu,
Second
and then
Izo. Will we find
Izo's
Jozu
coming down.
here? We're looking for all the 2Ks we can get.
You can add a Whitebeard Pirates, or you can just add a 1K.
It's another 1K, so he never went negative here. That's pretty powerful, to be honest. But can we get out of 15K here? Was the Thunderbolt enough? Was the Thunderbolt and 2 turns of attacking him enough?
So we need 9K from hand.
And that's going to be 8K? Or, sorry, 8,
9.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
And that is enough. Wow.
All right, so we're going to swap over. Okay, I mean, that's the power of that 8K attack. You know, like, one of Whitebeard post restrictions kind of weaknesses is if you break them once, if you start getting them in a position where they have 0 life, no wiggle room left, and they're having to lose cards out of their hand, especially multiple cards out of their hand, in order to get out of your attacks, then you have them on a massive clock, and they can really struggle at defending themselves for 2 turns in a row. Whereas previously, you know, they were like 9 drop, sustain, 9 drop, sustain, radical beams for, you know, that extra bit. They don't have any of that stuff anymore. You know, now we might see it once, but if you can break them, if you can get past that, you can soften them up. So it's really, you have to really calculate, will they be able to kill me in return? Because it's still going to take you more than 1 turn to kill Newgate. But you got to think about how you're going to soften them up. And in that game, I decided to try and soften them up with the pudding. Pudding was able to take him down.
Yeah, it was also the strength in being able to stack your life in the first place, right? Like, that was shown to be powerful there by stacking the Thunderbolt on your life.
100%. And, you know, Katakuri, I will say Katakuri versus the LinLin there. Of course, I won that game through stacking the Thunderbolt on top to deal with the Marco. But you saw the efficiency lost along the way. I mean, there were some spots where I think I swung 6 and he just took it. But, you know, there were worlds where that could have just been like a thatch out or something like that. You know, and of course, he did lose a little bit of power, too, on the turn that he played Marco instead of the thatch. That, you know, that could have been eating another life. I definitely would have been a lot more pressured in that game had that happened. Yeah, I mean, there were some little things, and I think it's tough. It's really tough to determine, like, what category just have been better there. I'm not sure. Yeah, hard to say. All right, guys. Well, that does it for us. If you like the video, consider liking this video. That's a bit awkward. But, you know, also consider subscribing to the channel. And if you're a person who likes hours and hours of gameplay, well, I feel like I have to let you guys know. Nathan and I have been doing a lot of live streaming lately, taking deck requests, taking deck lists from viewers like you, and just playing them on stream against whatever you want us to pilot it against. It's a good time. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you get those go live notifications and never miss a stream. But I'm going to stop stumbling over words tonight, and we'll call it there. Thanks so much for watching along with us, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.
Good night.